Hello everyone, my name is Willie Eaglehawk and I'm the BTS Theorist. I'm a sociologist, a social theorist, a full-time army and the author of Idle Limerence, The Art of Loving BTS as Phenomena. I make books all about BTS and army, and now I'm making podcasts too. On the BTS Theorist, I want to bring to you stories from within the fandom and new perspectives on BTS and army. Think of this as a place where I share ideas, experiences and observations all about those 7 men we love so much, and the fandom that journeys next to them. Plus, I'll bring in people to interview from time to time just to keep it fresh. If you're an army, it's so good to have you here. If you're a curious onlooker, hi! I hope you find this episode informative and that you walk away with a better understanding of just what makes BTS and army so good. On today's episode, I'm fortunate enough to be interviewing an essayist from my latest book project, I Am Army, We Don't Need Permission. This book features a collection of essays from army from around the world that share their stories of how they found BTS and who they are. All right, so on today's episode, I am joined by my new friend all the way from Lithuania. All right, we have Martyna Kučinskaitė, whose name I am still attempting to nail as we speak, and I will continue to practice afterwards. She is a pianist, a poet, and a writer from Lithuania. She is currently tutoring students in Lithuanian, me now included, as I attempt to, I think it's a new hobby, let's be real. I think I'm going to try and get into this language because I don't want to make a fool of myself ever again. She also teaches music. Her essay is titled, My Existence is Impressive, Unique and Important. And it tells the story of how she grew up as a post-Soviet kid and how she found BTS when she needed the most. Hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's so good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here on this lovely Sunday afternoon for you. Yay, so glad to have you here. All right, so I want to kick off by asking you how you first found BTS and became an army. Can you share that story? Like literally spare no detail. Tell us all about it.
Definitely. So as many armies, I found them when I was struggling a lot in life. And in my essay, I really wrote a lot about it. So I'll just read a little excerpt from it because it tells everything. So just before the excerpt, I was studying in US at the time, and it was the middle of pandemic. So I was depressed. And one time I just was looking up some reactions on YouTube, and I was watching Rumi Official's channel who did some reactions to music, and yeah, that was the first time that I heard Dynamite. So the first time I heard Dynamite is absolutely enchanted me from the first few seconds in. Right after Joel's reaction was over, I went to then called Big Hit Entertainment's official YouTube channel and watched the music video, and then I watched it again and again and again. I couldn't stop smiling. I think that night I watched Dynamite at least 20 times in a row, and then proceeded to search for people reacting to it and getting excited about everything all over again. I could not comprehend how an almost 4-minute video was so well made, kept my attention for all its length without any breaks, how each member was so different, charming and funny, and how the whole experience was so engaging for me. I was fascinated by something so simple from the first look, so well put together, edited and executed to make me smile, laugh, and gasp watching it for the 20th, 30th, and 100th time. That was the day when I discovered BTS and the moment when I realized that what BTS creates is not just a performance or putting up a show. They create an extraordinary experience for those who have an open heart and mind to receive it. So that's what I wrote in my essay, but really that was something like a big wave, like a big energy coming into my life. And I was, I can be this level of happy when I discovered them.
Wow, that's so cool. So your first experience of BTS was something so full of joy and happiness for you in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And also a lot of the essays in I Am Army, We Don't Need Permission, reflect on that exactly. Like so many people became army during the pandemic. So what I want to know now is, did you learn about army right away? How did you kind of learn more about the fandom? And then at what point did you say, oh yes, I am an army, I am a fan?
I think I was a fan from that first video, but I did not really know what really army is and how big it is, how versatile. So it took me quite a few months to really get to know a fandom in general. But yeah, I was kind of dipping my toe into BTS's content really slowly too, because I wanted to enjoy every video, every music video that I discovered for as many times as possible before moving to the next one. And it was still Map of the Soul 7 kind of era at that time. So I listened to that album and then just kind of listened to it over and over again until I knew everything about it, and then went to something next from their albums. And then, yeah, kind of eventually discovered the ARMY is so cool and so lovely and kind community to be in.
So cool. So at the time you said you were in university, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And were you studying in the US at the time?
Yes. I was in US studying my master's degree. I was doing my last year, which is really difficult, especially during the pandemic when you kind of lose the sense of community, just staying home and practicing on your own. I was studying piano performance art, and it was very lonely, right? The few opportunities that we would get to go into college was just to kind of practice and prepare for recordings that we needed to do for our exams. So you go in, there's no one there, and you just practice, you record, and you leave. And for a performer, it's kind of really difficult to keep up the spirits and be good at what you do when there's no audience, which really resonated for me how BTS felt at the time.
That's so interesting, because I would imagine that as a musician, and also going to another country to study, the whole idea would be to immerse yourself in the culture and to be surrounded by people. And then suddenly you can't be anywhere near people.
Yeah, definitely. The first semester was great, and then everything shut down. And of course, I would meet friends outside or in parks. I would still walk around and discover the city. I was in New York. It's a great city to just walk around even outside. But yeah, definitely the sense of community was very minimized. So BTS kind of filled in that gap.
Yeah. And were you able to find that, like, a new sense of community through ARMY? Like, what did you start participating on, like Twitter or Instagram or TikTok? Yeah. What did that look like?
Mostly just following accounts on Twitter and having that kind of fun dose in your life. And then TikTok, which I think I discovered you through TikTok, really just, you were showing your books and I was like, this is so cool. That's what I want to do too. So yeah, TikTok definitely has a variety of ARMY content, and I enjoyed that a lot during the pandemic. And later I wanted to learn Korean. So I joined Martyna Academy, which is a great place to learn Korean, and I'm still in it and studying.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So you teach language, and also now you're learning another language. I'm just curious, like, what is that like? Because obviously you know what it's like for your students when they're trying to learn Lithuanian, and me just trying to learn your last name before. How has it been for you learning Korean?
It's really fun. I'm a bit sad that I don't give it as much time as I would want to, because it's really fun. And the system that's made in the school is like really accessible for anyone. Although for myself, as I really just like studying languages, I studied quite a few European languages, Indo-European languages, and this is very different for me, but I still take it with an approach that, I know how this works. I get the rule and I move on. So it's really fun. It was a bit of a challenge to learn a new alphabet because I've never learned other alphabets in my time of studying languages. And I just see how my students learn some things, and I learn something in Korean, and then I kind of apply to my lessons, tutoring them if they live abroad. Yeah, definitely. It's like I'm in a language bubble living right now.
That's so cool. I want to be in that language bubble too, for sure. And I think it's so interesting that, I learned Korean. I was learning Korean before BTS, but definitely I found BTS because I was learning Korean. And after BTS, I wanted to learn Korean even more. So it's interesting, like the pipeline of ARMY that like everyone I have spoken to has gone through I love BTS and now I'm learning Korean.
Definitely.
Which is beautiful, right? Like the fact that we all want to share in that language and in that culture. I think that's really cool.
I think everyone has a bit different personalities in each language when they speak, and that's when people know more than like one language, they notice that. So we want to really understand BTS, and that's why we learn Korean. The translations are great and all the explanations are great, but just really knowing how the language works, Like right now, there are this series where on YouTube when someone explains how each member speaks and like what's their dialect and everything. It's so interesting to understand their personalities more through their language. So yeah, that's I think why most armies just jump into learning Korean.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last thing on language, just in Lithuania, do you have different dialects as well?
We kind of have, but they're mostly spoken by older generations people. And as the time goes by, there's just kind of a standard language that's taught in all the schools and everywhere. So you can still find like grandparents or some people on like the sides of the country where it's more like secluded and they still have a little bit of dialect. You can definitely understand them pretty well. So it's not that much. And I live in the center of Lithuania, so it's like the cleanest languages you can find as if I live like in Seoul. So for me, it was very easy to learn it and to teach everyone else. For others, as I teach now some students from like further cities, like further from the center, I feel like, oh, they put accents in different places. How do I teach them how to put accent in a word in the right place? Even though there's no like right or wrong, it's just the standard language rules that you have to follow. But yeah, dialects are kind of almost assimilated to the standard language by now.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, in Korea, it can be it's still quite evident as we're learning.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. That's so interesting. All right. Okay. I digress. Okay. So what I want to know more from you now is I'm just so interested. I barely know anything about Lithuania. So what was it like growing up in Lithuania and what was it like growing up as a post-Soviet kid? Like, can you tell us a little bit about the history and what it was like for you growing up?
Yeah. So Lithuania is a small country and we've been occupied many times and for long periods of time. So at first we had the first occupation by like not Soviet, but before that, like Tsarist Russian. And then after that, some time passed and then we got occupied again by Soviet Union. And it lasted a really long time and ended at 1990s. And I was born on 1996. So I was just after the gaining independence again for Lithuania. And it was a very difficult period for the little country to kind of get back on track and like catch up with the rest of the world, like on all the levels. And it was struggling economically a lot. I remember my mom just telling me how it was difficult for me to just buy simple cookies. As for your kid, it was just something that you cannot really afford. I have no idea how my parents grew up. It was a bit better when they were growing up, but for me, it was just that changing time, that transitional period. And it was, most people were really poor until we kind of gained back the value. And yeah, I just have the excerpt from where I told more about like how it was about the professions, the emotional state of people who were growing up in Soviet Union. So I was born 6 years after Lithuania restored its independence and finally freed itself from the Soviet Union. All my life, I've been told by my parents that I can become whoever I want to be. But the sad reality of recovering country throws a heavy shadow over those big dreams. When I was just 2 or 3 years old, I only wished to be the lady behind the baked goods counter in the grocery store. I did not want to bake those cakes, but solely sell them to the people who would really want to eat them. At the age of 3.5, my parents started teaching me to play piano and saw great potential for me becoming a professional pianist one day. Even then, I still felt that I had a variety of choices of who I could become. A president, an astronaut, a lawyer, a banker. My little self was aiming for big roles, which could impact the people around me and help my recovering country, make things better and life easier for everyone, including myself. I did not necessarily feel the calling for all those positions, but as long as they were powerful positions, I wanted to aim for them like the moon and then maybe land somewhere in the stars. However, even with my parents' support, having such big goals at that time was not easy for anyone my age.
Okay, so it's so interesting that, Lithuania has been independent for only 33 years now. So you were really coming in at that time of great change. So you knew that it was possible to dream big, but was it kind of a question of, well, how do I get there? It's possible, but how? Is that the question that it was?
It was more like I have to do something for my country to make the life better. So my own dreams, my personal wishes and desires are not really that important. I have to work for everyone's good and lift up the country however I can. So like art has some kind of place in it, but even though it's more like my calling, I didn't feel like it could do so much good in the country's recovering as like some more political positions. And we were really having some good political leaders at the time. And I was thinking, well, they can do something. They are doing something important. So I should aim for that too. And I think most of people thought that this is the important roles that you can play. And if the kids are growing up, they have to become, well, usually it's in Lithuania, it's popular for boys or the girls who are told to say, just become a basketball player, because basketball was one of the things that made our country famous at the Soviet Union time and after it. So it was just becoming something or someone for the world to see us and to recover the country quicker.
Okay, all right. That's so interesting. Okay, so at what point did you really start to pursue music seriously? So you said like growing up you were playing a piano and you started thinking maybe I could be a pianist. Were you a teenager? Were you a kid? Like when did you start going, I could pursue this, and then also not only do that, but go to another country and study this at a postgraduate level?
Yeah. Well, I kind of had to choose when I graduated high school, like what do I do in college? So that was the time when I decided I still really enjoy playing piano, which I enjoyed my whole life. And I'm really good at it because I did it from 3.5 years old. So I may as well just choose this path because I like playing piano. It's not like I aimed to be a famous pianist or something. I just loved playing and performing music. And I liked that when you're studying, you get like all the access to the pianos at the school. You get like kind of tutoring to learning all the genres when you're playing. You get the feedback from professors. So it's just a good place for me to do what I love and learn more about that in being in that field. As well as music, though, I always loved literature. So I studied double major in my bachelor's degree, and I studied literature, and that's why I can teach language now. So those two things kind of went together. And for master's, I decided, I can't really do both things anymore. Like I'm lacking time in my day. So I just chose, okay, let's do music because I can't really take a break from practicing piano. If I take a break, it will take a long time to get back into the good state that I was in. So I just chose, okay, now I'm doing piano. If I want something later, I can do something with literature anytime, really, or during it. And I kept writing a lot of like poems and just texts for myself while I was studying piano. But that was my main goal, just because I cannot let it go as long as I want to do it professionally. And now I'm kind of taking a break from music and more concentrating on literature as I kind of planned. But the decision to go abroad was just because I was looking for a little bit different experience that I had in my country for a bachelor's degree. And I got a really good different perspectives in New York.
Okay, so literature. Tell me more. So you're a poet, you're writing, is that correct? What do you write about?
I write mostly poetry, yeah. I used to write more longer texts, and whenever anyone is like have struggles with like annotations for books or just need to proofread something and just edit their text, they always give me. So I enjoy that a lot. And yeah, mostly for myself, I write poetry. It's kind of a second nature. If I'm struggling with something, I write. If I'm bored on a train or a bus, I write poems. And if I need to sort things out in my head for something, it's like a self-therapy. And by now I have collected so many poems that I decided I want to put them in a little book, just find the ones that I can release. And yeah, I'm working on sorting them out, not really editing them, which is interesting for me because I'm a perfectionist, but they stay as they are, as like little writings of that time me. And yeah, I want to put them and release and then start kind of a new chapter because yeah, I've been writing actively from like 15 years old and now I'm 26. So it's like a good 11 gap year of poems that I have to kind of put together and leave in the past for now.
Wow, that's so exciting that you've gone from being a wonderful pianist, which I'm sure you still are, to now also publishing your first poetry collection. That
I'm
is pretty
excited
great.
about it.
Yeah,
It's really exciting.
I'm curious to know, how does BTS, like, do BTS inspire your creative process at all? Your writing, when you play music? Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
For music, not that much. For music, when I watch them, I just watch them as really good performers, and I can value them from that performance point. And I know what goes in their heads, or like how they prepare for a good performance. And it's just more like relating to them. And for writing, I really do take a lot of inspiration from them mixing up languages, which we all as ARMY love, because they mix in English words, they do Japanese songs, they even throw a few Spanish words, they do a few like languages kind of mix, mainly keeping Korean. And for my poems, I used to write mostly in English or Lithuanian, but later I thought I can mix in some other words. I studied French, I know German. I can just find the words that are not existing in other languages, and they would make way more sense. So I kind of started incorporating that aspect into my thoughts, and also just kind of self-discovery type of writing, which I think also looked up at BTS how well they do it in the art form of self-discovery, and I want to do that too.
Very, very cool. All right, so you spoke a little bit about it already, so I want to know what has changed since writing your essays. So your essays kind of based around the time when you were in America during the pandemic, becoming an ARMY. So obviously you're not in America anymore, and a few years have passed. So where are you at in life right now? What has changed? What does life look like? And most interestingly, like what does being an ARMY look like for you now that you're a few years into it?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely at first you just consume everything that you find about BTS, and it becomes like a daily thing. By now it's kind of calmed down, which I feel like it's a healthy relationship with BTS. By now I follow everything that they do, but not like 5 hours per day. It's just main things, and just rooting for them, and just listening to main things like albums or concerts that came out. And yeah, so it's kind of calmed down, and I really kind of incorporated them into my daily life just by loving myself things, and just decorating my room with some of their posters. Something that's like always a reminder that they're around, but it's not that active. And of course, I moved home after the studies. I want to take a break after studying, and yeah, just working from home now, and having this time to build up myself really back, because I was really exhausted from the studies, both emotionally and physically. So I'm really just prioritizing myself. BTS really inspired to prioritize myself and not other people. So that's how they're playing the role in my life right now.
All right. Well, you spoke a little bit about it just then, but can you tell me a little bit about your love yourself journey? Because you do talk about this in your essay. So what, like, first of all, like, what is love yourself? How did you find this message, and how are you having this journey right now? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm. I think I discovered Love Yourself just through the interviews of BTS more, and then I went to their album series Love Yourself, and I kind of just was inspired by how each member was telling how they learned to love themselves. And I was thinking that it's such an obvious thing for anyone that, yeah, you should love yourself, but unless you put in time and put it into practice, you can't really find your own ways to loving yourself. So I tried to discover that, and over the past like a couple of years, I'm just like setting more boundaries in my life, just trying to find out what really works for me, and starting to like please other people less, and look what I need more in life. And yeah, so even from the most simple things like what I get from people and what I give, that balance, it was really sorted better after following BTS, because they set such high standards for anyone, for our friends, for our partners in lives. And at the time that I found BTS, I was in a quite toxic relationship, and BTS kind of inspired me. No, you need to leave it. You deserve much better. And now I'm in the most healthy relationship ever in my life. And my partners really just checked all the boxes that BTS standards are for most people. So yeah, it's kind of they reminded me I need better in my life.
Oh, those are words to live by. The amount of people that I have heard have that same story of BTS helping them, well, not only learning to love themselves and what that looks like, but also have higher standards for intimate relationships. It's a good thing. I mean, when
definitely.
When you have people like BTS who are great humans, like it can really shine a light on all the, I guess, the gaps in our lives.
Yeah.
So, yay, thanks BTS. All right. So we're getting pretty close to the end of this chat. So right before we go, I want to know from you, and you've got to answer in, I don't know, as quickly as you can. What is your favorite BTS era, your favorite music video, and your favorite song?
It's so hard to choose, but as I jumped into Map of the Soul 7 era, I think songs from that album are my favorite songs, and my favorite song at that time and still now was J-Hope's Ego. It just puts me in a dancing mood. It reminds me that I am like, I have to live in my body. I don't have to go up in my head and get, consumed by anxiety or stress in life. So Ego by J-Hope, but really that whole album is my like really self-discovery thing. From the kind of professional field as a musician, though, when I value the albums, I think Wings is the album that I connect to the most because it has so much classical influences. And for the music video, oh God, I really like Jimin's and Serendipity. I think it's magical to look at it just as an art form. So yeah, that would be my picks.
Good choices. All right, so we got outro Ego, we've got Wings era, but also a little bit of Map of the Soul 7 and also Serendipity.
Yeah.
Ooh, good choices. And also it's fitting because it is, Hobie's birthday month. And he's also announced his enlistment today.
I cried.
So did I. I didn't think I was going to cry. I didn't know what I was going to do. But then as soon as I saw the notification come up, I was like, oh, man, not again.
Why so sudden?
I know. And he's doing so well. So, I guess it's always better to go out when you're on top. So I guess that's the good thing. Thanks. Yeah. I wish you didn't have to go at all. But anyway, we'll
I think they're going to get through it
all
quickly.
Of his music. Yeah, please. The quicker, the better. Please come back soon, BTS. All right. So on that note, I'm gonna wrap up now. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and of course your wonderful contribution to I Am Army. I know we were working on it for a long time, back and forth, the book in general, and I'm really excited that it's now about to come out tomorrow. So by the time everyone's listening to this, the book will be out in the world, and I'm posting it to everyone. So hopefully very soon we will be all of us holding. I don't even have my copy yet, everyone. That is the state of the postal system right now. But, hopefully very soon it will be here. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I really enjoyed getting to know you more.
Thank you. I had a great time with you. It was such a pleasure. Great.
Yay. Okay. So I'm going to put your Instagram handle and link in the description on this podcast and on the video and everywhere that people can find it. And I'm going to put my contact details there as well. For everyone listening, if you want to read this essay and all the essays, please do pick up a copy of I Am Army, We Don't Need Permission from revoltbooks.com or Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Book Depository, or really anywhere online you can pick it up. Or you can order in through your local indie retailer. So please support local if you can. Order through them. They'll know what they're doing and they'll get it in for you. And that's all we've got time for, folks. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.